Hey everybody, welcome back to Electric Cafe. My name's Tim Humphrey. Today I'm reviewing Peter Murphy's Hysteria album from 1988 on Beggar's Banquet. So this was Peter Murphy's second solo album. I kind of consider it his first solo album because his first one is not very good. Um, I've tried to listen to it a few times. I have it on CD. It's just I've had it for probably since early 90s, probably maybe even late 80s, and I just can't get into it. There might be like one or good songs on it. I think the single might be okay. There might be another song, but this is really where Peter Murphy really blossomed as an artist, really kind of came into his own, and thanks to the 100 Men who doing the instrumentation behind him, the band behind him that he used through this album, and also through the album Deep, which are probably considered his two best albums by most people, not necessarily me, but most people, probably critically acclaimed, anyways, from the media side. But I think Peter Murphy, real Peter Murphy fans will judge and compare and have different um, favorites throughout his career, because I think he's had a really strong career for the most part. Although I feel like there is a long time between albums at times. I think when you look at the quality of the albums, I think they've all been really good. I've been probably except for maybe Dust, which is if I don't have Dust or Shattered. Those are kind of early 2000, late 90s albums, if I remember correctly. But besides that period, I think I would say the other two, the other six solo albums are really good. So there's a good 50, 60 songs that I like by Peter Murphy's, and when I look at my like doing a top 20 for Peter Murphy tracks, it's a super strong list, and I'd probably have to squeeze 30 in there just to kind of feel like I'm giving love to my favorite 30, and being a little bit picky, but still trying to squeeze in most of them, or at least my favorites, because there's definitely a solid probably 30 or 40 songs that I really like by Peter Murphy that I would rate well. So I'm gonna go into my notes here. I have an original copy here on vinyl, and also a copy over here on vinyl. I was playing the CD just a minute ago. I used to have this on cassette too. In fact, that was the first version I had. I think when this came out, I had it on cassette. But I seem to have lost that one away along the way. I do have Holy Smoke and Deep on cassette, and I probably lost my Cascades on cassette as well. I used to have most of Peter Murphy and Bauhaus on cassette. That's the original way I heard him in the 80s. So I didn't buy vinyl for Peter Murphy until 90s. Um, but yeah, so I'm just gonna go over my notes here and then rank each song, and then rank the album as a whole and kind of go over it. So the first track, All Night Long, is kind of considered probably a Peter Murphy classic in many ways. It's a great video. Um, it's eerie. It's kind of Eastern sounding. It's kind of moody. It's got good instrumentation. I like the lyrics on it. The verses and the chorus are all smooth. I mean, the chorus could keep going on, and I don't think anybody would care, and it kind of does because it fades out on it. But it's just a really cohesive track and a really strong track in many ways. Um, I may not like it as much as other people do, but I'm saying that with a grain of salt because I do have it 4 stars, which is it's one of the best songs on the album, by far. Well, not by far, but it's one of those. It's equal to another song on here. Let's put it that way. As far as the best song on here, when I would compare it to, if I'd probably compare my top 10 songs, it would probably be right inside the top 10, probably 8 or 9 or 10, probably in there. I really like a lot of songs on other albums, when I think of the best of Peter Murphy. But if I was to put this album in rank in the Peter Murphy albums, I'd probably say three to four, somewhere in there. Favorite Peter Murphy's albums, solo albums. So going on to his Circle and Hers Met, I like the guitars. It's a good balance of the keyboards and guitars. Probably the lyrics are obviously about sex, and it's kind of, I don't think I've ever heard a song that's so vague but yet so exact on the lyrics. It's just the strangest balance of him. Of some of the things he says. It's just like, you're just like, really, but it's just a strange song, and lyrically. I don't know how to describe it. It's just it's so raw, but it's also so unique in the words they use for it. I mean, just the title, His Circles and Hers Met, is just kind of like, what I mean? It's just, there's so much kind of like innuendo in it, and but it's just got a great groove. It probably goes on a little long. It's kind of pushing like 5.5 minutes, I think, or close to like 6. But I think he has a great groove. I like how he speaks the lyrics and accentuates them in the very last chorus as it kind of goes to the point where it's about to fade out. It's like an odd goth disco song. Like if you were dressed up like as a vampire and you were on a disco, kind of like George Hamilton in Love at First Bite, which I love that movie. He would probably be dancing to this if it was the 80s. Like, it's such like a gothic kind of disco song. It's just so unique, but it's so catchy. I really like it. I feel like I'm rating it a little low. I got it 3.25 stars. I feel like it might be 3.5 stars. It is kind of tongue-in-cheek and kind of cheesy and stuff, but I really like the groove and the keyboard, and it's a very good song. I have it over a very good song. It's the 3.25 stars, so it's strong. I feel like I'm maybe kind of putting it down a little bit because I was, I probably heard this album recently. I mean, I'm sure I've heard the song in the last year, but for some reason I played it this time, and I do usually listen to the lyrics on this and kind of laugh, but this particular time I was just like, because I was, I guess probably because I was rating it, and I was like, the lyrics are kind of strange. It's kind of weird. Like, there's this lyric where he says, "The he she joining, no moment now, oh be no other, oh, no front, no back, no something something," and then he says, "Unity served on his plate." I'm just like, okay, like this is a little too personal. You can shut the door, Peter, and do your thing. Like, I don't know. It's just kind of a strange album. I mean, strange song, but I like it. It's cool. But this is kind of song that is a perfect example. You could probably sing anything in here and it wouldn't matter, but because the groove is so good. Track 3, Dragnet's Drag. Some people might think this is kind of one of the weaker songs on the album, but I think it's pretty good. I like the bridges with the piano and the violin. There's something kind of carefree and whimsical in the track that I like about it. It just kind of floats along, and it's kind of a merry little song. Peter Murphy that's the kind of thing I really like about Peter Murphy. Like, I feel there's not a lot of singers that I know. Like, I feel like I know their moods and things like that, and I feel like I really can pick up on Peter Murphy's moods really well. I think besides, well, I mean, not to count down how many times I've seen Peter Murphy live, but he's probably in the top 3 or 4 artists I've seen most live, especially when you count the couple times I've seen Bauhaus. And I want to say I've seen Peter Murphy maybe 6 or 7 times live, solo. So I feel like, as much as I like his music, and I mean, I have most of his albums on multiple formats. I have a special edition that he put out that he did the art on the Bauhaus album that he was selling during one of the last tours he did, and I just feel like I feel connected to his moods, and because I mean he's a very challenging, interesting person I mean, he's kind of like, he has a little bit of an ego. Like he thinks he's kind of I'm the face of goth, and he kind of has that like attitude. And I can see how like Daniel Ash and probably people of in Bauhaus were just like, this dude's like way over the top. He wants things his way. He probably gets mad at the engineers and maybe people in front of the house mixing and the levels and stuff like that. I've seen him kind of, he, I've the time when he tripped on stage at the Coachella, and you could just see he was kind of pissed off about that. Of course, I mean, who wouldn't be? But just the way he interacts with the crowd, in between songs a lot of times. Famously, I was at the show where, I don't know if it's famously, but it's definitely, he was playing Indigo Eyes, and he had a hand cramp in his he had a cramp in his hand when he was playing the acoustic guitar, and he must stop the song like I think twice because he had a cramp, and he just started talking to the crowd, and it was kind of cool, and he has a lot of personality, he has a lot of charisma, and he is engaging. I think he is a nice person. He can be pretty rude to some people. Like I've seen some interviews with him, and he talks bad about other artists and some of the things he said about Bauhaus and stuff. So he's a unique individual. Plus, his past drug addiction and his yoga and his religious views and living in Turkey and probably some of the things he practices and his diet, and I mean, everything about him is the way he dresses. I mean, I've seen him with a thong on stage. Like he's just like so unique and different, and in touch with himself, and no holds barred. He's not afraid of how he is and not afraid of who he is, and I just I find a lot of that admirable. I wouldn't necessarily want to be him in any way, but it's not like that kind of affection that I have for him. But I just find him very interesting in so many ways. And then none of that really, well, I mean, I guess some of that has to do with his lyrics and the way he sings and the instrumentation and stuff like that. But none of that really has to do with him as a artist per se, although it indirectly kind of is him, and that's what brings his music out. So I just find him unique in a lot of different ways. But again, I like Drag Me With Drag. I got 3 stars. I got a very good song. I think some people think it's probably a weak song on the album, and I guess it is. When I look at the ratings, but I think it's a good song, really good song. Socrates and the Python. It's unique. It's eerie, mystical, kind of Eastern. Probably sounds like the most Bauhaus song on here. I can almost feel like Daniel Ash is sort of or Kevin Haskins is sort of in the background, like talking while he's singing. It sounds like, it sounds like a very Bauhaus song. I really like the vocal effects on it, the guitar, the instrumentation is cool. It's just really, really good. It's a good song. I like it in a lot of ways. I feel like I can't really rate it high because it necessarily doesn't really do too much. It stays in kind of the same vein, but it's so unique in a way. As I have it 3 stars, so I got it as very good. So I really like it a lot. It's just I don't feel like I can rate it higher, although I feel like I want to a little bit. But I'm trying to be critical to the song and the quality of the song itself, and kind of balancing that with my personal like as well. And I do that a lot actually on this album, and especially on quite a few of these, I feel like I want to give a little higher, I want to give a little lower, based on the merit of the song, and sort of almost detach my personal feelings of it too, because I do have a lot of history with this album. Indigo Eyes, another good acoustic song, which it's kind of like his hit maker. If he grabs the acoustic song, that's going to be probably a hit. I mean, All Night Long has a acoustic guitar on it. Indigo Eyes, of course, Cuts You Up. Like a lot of his big hits have like an acoustic guitar going along with everything else. It's really catchy. It's a little long. It's 5 minutes and 54 seconds. Um, if it was obviously, at that point it was kind of the cuts you up of that album, and I don't really remember it too much on the radio per se, but I'm trying to think of, I can't, I listen to K Rock a lot, but probably a little bit more so. I mean, I listen to K Rock a lot in those days, but I don't really necessarily remember it being played. Not necessarily even close to how much "Cuts You Up" was played. So probably "All Night Long" was probably played a little bit more than this. But this was the other single on the album, as well as "Blind Sublime" was the third single. But yeah, I mean, it never crossed over to the radio, unfortunately, and that could have been because it was a little bit long. Um, that's disregarding just Peter Murphy as an artist, of him crossing over in any way to what radio would think would be, you know, catchy in those days. But I feel like it is a very catchy song. But maybe if it could have been a little tighter, it could have been could have been a hit. Um, I really like the excellent piano and the melody. I really like the chorus, especially the instrumental at the end. It sort of does the chorus instrumental, but it doesn't. It's kind of the bridge toward then he does sort of the fade out, and the chorus comes back, then it fades out. So I feel like he could have probably faded it out like a minute and a half earlier, and still kind of tied in the great qualities about the melody and everything about that song. Because it doesn't necessarily. I think one of the engineering tricks or producing tricks is when to make a song, when to cut off a song. And I feel like this song at 6 minutes is definitely been an opportunity to make it tighter. And I'm sure there's. I don't have the single of the song, but I'm sure they've cut it down for a radio edit of it or a 7-inch edit. I'm sure they did. But it's an album version, so you know I can't really gripe it either way. But I feel like um, I think it would have. The only thing I'm saying about it is like if it would have been a little shorter, it'd make you want to listen to the song more often, more. And that's the thing about the engineering trick or producing trick of making a song a little shorter and fading it out. It makes you want to play the track more. But at 6 minutes, it's hard to keep taking that journey of 6 minutes long on a track, no matter how good it is. It's just a little long. Um, Next track. The other thing about this is this better? Is Indigo's Eyes better than All Night Long? All Night is like the quintessential kind of Peter Murphy goth song in a way, especially with the video and the imagery on it. Indigo Eyes is one of his best pop songs. I got him. So I got Indigo Eye at 4 stars, and I also got All Night Long at 4 stars. So it's pretty close. It's hard for me to pick a favorite because they're kind of the opposite ends of his talent and his songwriting sort of song styles, but not necessarily all the way in the opposite realm, because it's not like a ballad or a pop song, but it is kind of the extremes of his pop side. So, but yeah, I really like the song. I mean, it's a great song. It's definitely one of his best. If I did a top 10 songs of his all time, it'd be right. I think it'd be right outside the top 10. I think I would probably put All Night Long a little bit inside the top 10. So I'd probably personally choose All Night Long a little bit more over it. Will that make me change my score? I don't know, but they're really close. Time has got nothing to do with it. I really like the lyrics on this one. How it's sung, the build up. It's simple and pretty. It's like a constant building. There's really no particular chorus, even though he says time has got nothing to do with it. It doesn't really feel like a chorus. It feels like it's continuing to flow through the whole song and build and kind of get to the crescendo at the end in a way. And I really like that about it as well. It's really not like a up and down to it, which I think in some way hurts my last 2 weeks a little bit, because it does go up to a crescendo and then kind of come down, and it's more of the standard song. Even though I like My Last 2 Weeks a little bit better than Time Has nothing to do with it. But I got it's one of my favorite on the album. I got 3.5 stars. It's a personal favorite on the album. Um, I feel like I might be rating it low as a personal favorite on here. I think have it right outside the top 10 if I had to choose a top 10 as well. I really like the song. Um, I feel like I'm giving it a little bit less rating because it really doesn't have too much going on, and it's fairly simple and straightforward, and um, yeah, it's just kind of simple and unique, but I really like it. It's kind of a positive, moody song, and I like that about it. And I like the instrumentation and just the twinkling melodies that kind of go through it. I think it's really pretty through the whole thing. Then you have Blind Sublime, which was also a single in some countries. I think I don't think it came out in the States or anything like that. Although it might, there was kind of like an extended version of it. It's a strong rock intro. It's powerful. I like the attitude he sings in it. Sometimes there's always like a Peter Murphy song here and there where he kind of gives it like an attitude when he sings in it, and I really like that. And this one's that for this album. The switch to the more pretty bridge is really cool. It's a nice and tight song. It's right under 4 minutes. I really like how he repeats the chorus at the end, and it kind of sings it back and forth with the chorus is really kind of cool. I think he has like an underlying voice where it's also his voice where he's kind of singing sort of the bridge, and the chorus is really cool. I had it at 3.5 stars as well, so it's definitely one of the stronger songs. If I was to place it on here, I have it probably fourth best song on here, or fifth best song on the album. Fourth is it? Yeah, fourth best song on here. So I really like it. And then you have My Last 2 Weeks. I'm sorry, it would be fourth or fifth because time has got nothing to do with it. Both have 3.5 stars. My Last 2 Weeks, I have it third best on the album at 3.75 stars. I really think it's one of his best ballads that he's ever done. I think it's right up there with Marlene Dietrich and Some Kind of Wonderful, and maybe under a couple other later ones too. But definitely one of his best ballads. I feel like I really like the combination. There's like multiple pianos going, and the chorus is really good and not too long, not too short. It's a good long ballad. I think it's right at like 6 minutes. I got it at 3.75, so it's third best song on the album. And then I have Fun Time, which is the last song in there. I have it 2.25 songs. It's okay. It's kind of tongue in cheek, kind of goofy. I think there's always a song on each album, and this kind of comes from his Bauhaus, maybe Ziggy Stardust kind of rock song I get, but I don't fully get. It's kind of that. There's like Telegram Sam or Fun Time or I'm trying to think of the song on Holy Smokes. I'm sure Deep has one as well. But there's like one song. I don't know if Roll Call is really that on Deep. Because the rest of the songs on Deep are really good. So maybe there's sort of that Deep Ocean Vast Sea on it, although I really like Deep Ocean Vast Sea compared to these ones. But there's always like a song on there that, that is sort of has like a sort of, he's making like a rock song, and it's kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of like tongue in cheek, but it's not really like as catchy. It's kind of, I don't know, maybe he kind of misses the mark a little bit on it. I wish I had Holy Smoke on here so I could compare that one. It's the, God, I can't think of the song. I don't want to, just bear with me a second. I want to point out the song on Holy Smoke. Kill the Hate. Doesn't really work for me either, although that's a little bit different than these. But there's always like one rock song on all of his albums that I don't necessarily like, or I think it's okay, but I'll probably fast forward it every time I get to it. Or in this case, it's the last song I think ending the song on My Last 2 Weeks is perfect. Fun time. I don't know why it is on the end of this album, anyways. So yeah, but it's okay. So overall, the good about it. I really like that all of Peter Murphy's styles are kind of grown from here. You got two rock songs. You got in Blind Sublime and His Circles Met. You got two ballads in Time Has Got Nothing to Do with It and My Last 2 Weeks. There's sort of two deeper ones, All Night Long and Dragnet Drag, Socrates, Pythagoras. There's, and so it's kind of like the origins of the styles of songs were kind of created here, or kind of set the bar here. The 100 Men is the background is, I think it really helped, especially from a previous album. I think it's called Should I Fail or something like that. I think the difference of and they could have been in that album as well. If I'm, maybe a couple of them. I think one of the guys' name is Paul Stratham or something like that. But the 100 Man, I'm not sure. I think it's like 3 or 4 guys that kind of do the instrumentation on the album, and the Peter Murphy kind of sings over it. And then of course, as Peter Murphy's kind of gone on, he's been more involved, not involved, but I think he's done more of the instruments as the album's kind of gone on in some ways. But I really feel like this album, their help and their work on this album really allows Peter Murphy to kind of focus more on the things that I feel like he does great, and that's the songwriting, the melody making, the choices of the songs on the album, just the moodiness on the album. It really kind of allows him to become who he's been and on these albums. And I feel like he owes, Peter Murphy owes a lot to the 100 Men, and I think they're really kind of underrated on Deep and Hysteria. On those two albums, they're really kind of underrated. And then when you kind of see like Holy Smoke and Cascades, I feel like that's all Peter Murphy, and those are, I think, even better in some ways than the first two albums, or the Hysteria and Deep, because it's all Peter Murphy, and I feel like even those songs are even more kind of moody and happy and things like that, and I think that Peter Murphy kind of hit another level, another high, a different high, not necessarily better, but a different kind of high on those albums. But Peter Murphy's performance on this album really comes alive. He's kind of the star of the show for sure, but not as much as he's the star of the show in Cascade and again that second kind of tier of, or not second tier, but that second high of his next couple albums. I really like the engineering and the mixing on this album. It's really solid. The bad on it, though, I do feel like it's a little bit dynamically flat. I mean, it's 1987, but I feel like the bass is lacking a little bit. I kind of want to feel it in All Night Long, like the first, bass line, the first bass notes in All Night Long should be a little bit more powerful, and I feel like the bass is kind of lacking a little bit through all this, although it's a little bit better on Blind Sublime. And His Circle and Hers Map, but just maybe not so much in the other songs. I feel like it's kind of tapered back a little bit, and it could be a little bit more powerful. So dynamically, I feel it's a little flat. But again, this is an album that probably needs to be remastered and kind of pulled out a little bit of the dynamics out of it a little bit more. And then maybe a little bit less, it could be a little bit more atmospheric in some ways. I think there's an opportunity I think of Socrates and Pythagoras, which is a very eerie song, and I feel like does have a very good atmosphere. Like I could feel like some of the other songs could have a little bit more atmosphere and could have been a little bit better. And I would imagine if he went back and redid these, like, anybody could retouch songs up and it would probably be, it would be a lot better in people's eyes. I mean, hindsight's everything, but I feel like a few of these songs could be a little bit more atmospheric. But that, again, those are really minor, not really even complaints, just maybe it could have been done a little differently. Um, when I think of the album, the overall score, 9 songs on the album. You know, it's definitely not too long of an album. It's not too short. It's pretty much right there. 9 songs and then Fun Time's okay. So maybe 8 good songs. Is a little short there. Still 8 songs, and there quite a few of them are over 5 minutes. So I don't think it gets any deterrent there of quality of songs or amount of quality songs. I got 2 at 4 stars. I got 5 at 3 stars, and I got 1 at 2 stars. So it's definitely in the very good range for sure. Um, you know, if a 4 star and a 2 star bounces each other out to a 3 star, there's still 1 4 star left. And then when you look in the ratings of the 3 stars, I got 2 at 3 stars. I got 2 at 3.5, and I got 1 at 3.25. So it's in the more in the middle. So I got it the overall at the album at 76 out of 100. So kind of in the middle of very good, not necessarily close to excellent, but I have a very good album. And I feel pretty strong about that. Um, about that rating, I don't feel like, you know, I don't see too much wavering there. Although, again, there's a lot of. This is an album that I do like to listen to a lot. I definitely have a connection with a lot of Peter Murphy's music, and I really like this album. I think it does. It isn't the most cohesive album. I think Deep is probably a little bit more cohesive, but then again, I would argue that because Roll Call is way too long, and there's 2 versions of it, and if you axe out that, then you probably have maybe 7 songs, or maybe it's still 8 songs, but it's very similar to this. You know, you take out Fun Time, you take out Roll Call's 2 versions, and you both have 8 songs on both. So I think some people will think Deep is a more cohesive songs and has maybe more good songs. I'll grant it that, but you know, as far as the cohesive, it's very close to Deep and Love Hysteria, and I feel like Love Hysteria is kind of a neglected album when people think of Peter Murphy of his favorite album. I think people just go immediately to Deep, and I feel like they disrespect Love Hysteria a lot. And that could be because of the rock songs on here, His Circle and Hers Met and Blind Sublime. I don't think those really hit home with everybody. And I think Socrates and Pythagoras and Dragnet's Drag don't really hit with every kind of Peter Murphy fan. But I think that Peter Murphy fans are a little bit deeper. I think these do kind of are alternative versions of the Peter Murphy that maybe people would like more a little bit. I feel like this is kind of the deeper kind of Peter Murphy, um, uh, the deeper Peter Murphy songs, or maybe this is kind of like the B side to Deep is kind of the A side. But I always like underdogs, so I feel like, you know, this is kind of an underdog album in a lot of ways. But yeah, 76 out of 100. Great album. I think it's really close to being excellent. Um, is excellent better than great? Or is great better than excellent? I would probably say if very good is very good 70 to 75, maybe is great 76 to 100, and then excellent is 80 to 90. I don't know, maybe that is. Maybe that's how I'll do the ratings. 76 to 79 being great, and then excellent is 80 to levels to 89, and then 90 is all time classic and above. But yeah, I really like this album, and Peter Murphy is definitely one of my personal favorite artists. And considering what he did with Bauhaus, you know, as well as just, and then also Dolly's Car. You know, I really like Dolly's Car album a lot as well. But and I really think the last 2 albums he's done are very underrated. Called Ninth, and Lion. I feel like those 2 albums are really underrated. I wish he would have done a 3rd album with those guys. And who knows? Maybe Peter Murphy has another couple albums in his belt before he kind of retires. I'd be curious to see what he's doing. I really like to see. Hopefully, we do see another tour of Peter Murphy. With some new music. That'd be kind of cool. But yeah, that's my review on Love Hysteria by Peter Murphy. 76 out of 100. Thanks so much for watching.